Hey everyone, I'm Rachel and welcome back to Conversations with Dental Friends, the podcast for dental professionals who are ready to explore more of what their career could look like. Whether you're thinking about evolving your current role, starting something new, or just need a little lunchtime inspo to keep you going, you're in the right place. And today, honestly, I couldn't have a better guest for exactly that. I'm joined by Alan Clarke, the powerhouse behind Pace Dental in Belfast and Pace Presents. And if you haven't already come across his work, you're in for something special. Alan's energy is just next level. And from the moment we started talking, I knew this episode would be all about bold ideas, pushing boundaries and letting go of limits, not just in dentistry, but in life. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know I love that. Pace Presents isn't just a brand, it's a movement. It's all about bringing creativity and authenticity into dentistry, celebrating individuality and showing that your career can be as expansive and unique as you are. Alan completely embodies that and he shares it all so generously in this conversation. Now, before we dive in, just a quick little favour. If you haven't already, please hit follow on the podcast. It takes 2 seconds, but it makes a huge difference in helping us grow, bring on more inspiring guests like Alan, and make sure conversations like these reach more people who need to hear them. Right, let's get into it. Here's the brilliant, bold, and endlessly inspiring Alan Clarke. This podcast is sponsored by Dürr Dental, a company that's been setting the standard in dental innovation for over 80 years. Whether it's their ultra-reliable suction systems, world-class hygiene solutions, or cutting-edge dental imaging technology, Dürr Dental supports dental professionals who take their craft seriously. Check them out at durdental.com because excellence starts with the tools you trust. And of course, a huge congratulations to Oratol celebrating 60 incredible years this year. Happy birthday, Oratol. Here's to many more years of innovation and excellence. I truly couldn't imagine the dental industry without you. So happy birthday from Conversations with Dental Friends. Hello, Alan.
Hey.
Welcome to Conversations with Dental Friends.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for recording with us today.
You're very welcome.
Alan and I are social media friends, but I'm very delighted to be together in person and having a chat. We've actually just had the most brilliant chat already, so I know this is going to be a super podcast for us all today. Alan, let's start at the very beginning. What first drew you to dentistry and how has that journey evolved into the career that you have today?
I think it's really difficult to pinprick it. I knew I wanted to work in healthcare. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I don't feel I fit the mold. I always knew I wanted to be a dentist, but I knew that wasn't potentially the ultimate end goal.
Yeah.
Because I also was aware of like my skill set. I would be there in dental school and see some people that were like just the creator, like the crafter with their hands, and they were just like exceptional at it. And I didn't feel sometimes that was me. I was good at the work, but also I felt like my personality would tend to different areas as well. And so I think actually whenever I look at jobs, I always had this like secret list of jobs that I wanted to be.
Manifest list?
I wanted to, if I could place myself, and then it's interesting because now whenever I look back at what I get to do now, I actually see that I'm pulling from these things, and then I'm now trying to lean into that in a big way because I'm like, these are the things that initially spoke to me. So I like healthcare. I wanted to do dentistry. I also wanted to be a TV presenter and a travel agent and a management consultant. So those are like my 4 things. And so now whenever we look at the way things are moving and the areas that I've like definitely found that I get the buzz and excitement from, it's starting to pull things from different aspects, which I find really interesting.
So you kind of knew whenever you were picking your GCSEs.
I like the creativity mixed with science, and I just felt that it was the right career path. I guess I did work experience in pharmacy and medicine. Ultimately, it just wasn't the right fit, and dentistry kept coming up as like an interesting thing. But I feel like it's with every job and every career for people. You don't know what the job's going to be until you're in it.
Yes.
And there's no such thing, I think, as a career for life.
Did you study dentistry in
Queen's?
Northern Ireland?
Yes, I went to Queen's, and then after that I did my BT. I had a job offer here, but I knew I wanted to go away and get something else. So I turned down the job on the promise of not knowing exactly what my job was going to be in just outside London in Ascot.
Okay.
I worked in a sort of I would say like probably 80% private practice in Ascot in Berkshire
Cool.
for a year. Really loved working there. I came back to Northern Ireland after that. I'd have loved to work in London at the time, but after VT, you're not really like positioned to get a job in London. You feel like there's still an awful lot to learn. It's super competitive. Your portfolio is not there. So I took a job back in Northern Ireland, and then I went part-time pretty quickly, and I did a medical law and ethics master's at Edinburgh.
Awesome. I love that.
Because so my first job, I worked for a politician in the US. I worked for a congressman in Capitol Hill whenever I was at dental school in healthcare policy. And it was like an internship. Yeah, I did a thing called Washington Ireland program. It was an internship where you worked for a politician, you did a leadership curriculum, and you just do your job. I spent the summer working there. The year after that, I went back and did an internship with a cosmetic dentist in DC.
Cool.
And that was amazing because that was really my first kind of introduction to the working world of dentistry, and the working world proper in general was through an American lens, which I didn't actually realize had impacted my value system as to how I work, but it did. And I only see it really in the last few months significantly. It's changed. My reference is really different to other people's, and I didn't realize that. And for that, I'm really thankful. So I did my medical law and ethics masters. I knew I wanted to go into policy or something, but I was just kind of interested in it, and I wanted just to do it. And I didn't know why. And I remember someone said to me once, is it not enough just to do it because you're curious and you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, I guess it costs money, but I didn't need a justification. It's like I knew I wanted to do it.
And what drew you to America both of those times then? Because that's obviously like quite a big decision to make as a 19, 20-year-old that you were going to go and spend your summer in America.
There was always a pull. And I think it comes from childhood TV movies.
Yes.
I actually feel like Nancy Myers like plays a role now, which is a weird full circle, but she like in terms of that aesthetic of like the idyllic America in the 90s, the movies that you grew up with, Mrs. Doubtfire, The Parent Trap, like that Father of the Bride, like that concept, it just looked beautiful. But that is like what you grew up with from Northern Ireland, seeing America. And interestingly, we have a relationship to America that other places don't have from here, and we also don't realize it.
Yes.
So I was working in Ascot through that program. I remember President Obama at the time came to Belfast, and I was very fortunate to get my parents' ticket into the room whenever he was speaking. And I remember watching it on TV in Ascot thinking, my goodness, this is so cool. Look, there's the president. He's in Belfast. And no one in England in my dental office had any interest. They were like, oh, he's not our president. And it made me realize we here do hold America in a different place.
I'm fascinated by American politics. I will stay up whenever it's the presidential elections.
Yeah.
And I want to know as the states are coming in, and
Yeah.
my good friend lives in America, and she's explained to me it's not just as simple as like the swing state but that's such an interesting perspective, because I never really thought about that other people wouldn't be as obsessive as Ireland is maybe with America.
We do have a special relationship, there's no question. And so and it goes both ways, I have to say. So yes, did my medical law masters, then really wanted to get into practical dentistry and really upskill. So I was working in a mixed NHS private practice in North Belfast, and I really loved that. But I invested then. I went to Spear in Arizona, and I studied there numerous times and flew out to learn about facially generated treatment planning, occlusion, and how I would start taking on and dealing with more complex dentistry.
Yes.
More complex cases, and how we would bring that American style of dentistry and comprehensive care to Belfast, because it wasn't really being done. And then I was in the first sort of Spear study club that we had here.
I remember Spear study club. I obviously wasn't in but I know people remember, that were in it.
Yes. Yeah, so then I did that here, but I was the only person that had actually been to Spear, and my attitude of treatment planning definitely was different. And anyway, fast forward a little bit, upskilled in lots of courses with ceramics, composite bonding.
Yes.
I had been a member of the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry for a few years at this stage. So I was doing that, and then I knew I wanted to have my own dental office at some stage. And so we were in the middle of COVID. I'd started to do a lot more private dentistry, and I wanted to make that transition. And so I suppose a few months later, I had taken over an existing one surgery office, and within the next number of months, I'd really created a brand, a lifestyle brand, and that is where Paste, however this is going to be picked up, was born.
Wow. I remember driving down the Dublin Road and seeing the lovely branding of Paste, and my head nearly went 360 because I had obviously known that as a dental practice for a long time in that area, and I imagine that it needed an injection of life investment and invigoration, maybe, Alan, which I think that you've done, which is great.
It's a big commitment financially. You never know if you're an associate, you never know if it's going to be the right decision. And you also don't know what you're taking on. Yes. Like, I don't think you can ever really fully understand it. I would say to associates right now, it's probably slightly more difficult here than it would have been maybe whenever I did it. So I think that it's really important to craft your own personal brand early, and to have that now and really create the demand, so that then whenever you go to having your own office, you're already starting kind of a step ahead.
I get you.
You're having to manage a team, you're having to manage a budget, you're managing patient expectations, like everything's thrown at you. The transition is hard, but it's one that I don't regret at all, and I love what we've done. And I've definitely approached it probably slightly differently to others have, but I approached it with my own personality and the way that I wanted to bring a product to market, and also what I felt was responding to the market conditions at the time.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, because obviously there'll be certain steps that have to happen regardless whenever you're opening a dental practice. We're constrained by guidelines and RQIA and everything else. But I love that you didn't want to do it like anybody else. I love that. I think that's so exciting, because
it needed to be exciting for me, because I was in a really lovely practice. I worked for Diane McAllister in North Belfast for a long time. I loved the team. I loved Diane. Diane was a great mentor and boss in terms of letting me have autonomy and letting me run with my own ideas. And the team were super supportive, but I knew I wanted to bring something to market, but I also knew it wasn't an easy mission. I was still earning quite well. However, you do sacrifice a lot to have your business. You take a hit on your earnings. People think that as an owner, suddenly you've got the keys to the castle to print money. Literally, I was earning completely the opposite. Like, factually, it's completely the opposite. You have all these expenses and bills. You take over a business. You don't know what the promise of earnings are. Everything's based on the history. How did that business do over the last 2 years? In a practice, in an office where the owner's been there for a long period of time, has a rapport with patients and they understand them, you're starting afresh. That's tough. But also, it needed to be fun enough for me to like get behind it and enjoy it, because you're working way more hours, you're putting so much of your time, money and commitment into it. So that I was like, well, I don't want to run a dental office that's the same as everyone else's. I want to do something that I can enjoy and get behind. And to give it that time commitment, it had to be something that I fully was committed to 110%.
Passion project.
100%.
Passion project. And Alan, Paste isn't just a dental practice. It's become a full brand with an educational platform and a real sense of identity beyond the Paste clinic itself on the Dublin Road in Belfast. What inspired that bigger vision, and how did the idea evolve into something that now lives both physically in the Paste dental practice, but also digitally through your professional content?
I think you have to be open to opportunities and open to what comes. I always knew that I wanted to do something that would have an impact and a legacy, and I realized that quite early on, I really love people and networking, and the opportunities for me came in writing, in speaking. I've had a column in Dentistry magazine now for the last 2 years. I've been able to write. I've written for the Daily Mail. Hello, we were in the Hello Coronation Edition. We were in the Sun, the Independent, Huffington Post. On our 1 year anniversary of Paste, we were in the New York Post.
Wow.
We've been profiled by the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. Like, we've had loads of stuff, but a lot of these opportunities I was never expecting. And I was never expecting them to come to me or to land with my clinic. And then whenever you get this, then you think, well, what's my responsibility to someone coming behind me? What's my responsibility in our community and the voice and the platform that we have? How do we use that to ultimately uplift our industry?
Yes.
And it's important for me to share the mistakes that I'd made. It's important to inspire other people to not have a ceiling and to dream big. And some of the opportunities have also come from the response to the needs. So we're bringing out a whole education app and platform.
Wow.
In the next few weeks, actually, probably 6 weeks. But that was a response because students were coming to me saying, how can I get involved with Pace Presents? How can I get involved with some of the other projects that you've done? And I realized there's a real dropping off of a cliff after dental school. It's been so like supported, and then suddenly they have a lot of courses vying for their attention, vying for their capital. Kicked out of the nest, but they still need a little bit of support. And that support can actually come within themselves and their own community. But I was privileged to kind of launch that a few months ago back at Queen's. And I thought to myself, well, I have the opportunity to speak in front of 70, 80 dental students here.
Yeah.
What would I want to say? Absolutely. Being the student in the room, like who would I have wanted to listen to, and who could have spoken to me that would make me dream bigger?
Yes.
And I prepared it, and as I was going through it, then I was comfortable enough in it, and I was able to pull myself out and think, right, if I was listening to this now, how can I inspire these people to think outside the box, to really realize like you've got a professional qualification that can take you in so many ways. Just forget what you've been always sort of conditioned to believe and dream bigger. So like my messaging always to young dentists, doctors is always, let's help you remove your ceiling.
Yes.
And I think that's the piece that I have. So it was really a response. A lot of this has been a response to people coming to me and asking. We did one of those events in King's in London, and I think I got about 30 people DM me privately talking about imposter syndrome and how they felt they needed to turn up on social media and how they felt a pressure, they felt insecure. And I thought, well, it's so interesting that they didn't want to voice that there, but it's still there. So, okay, let's speak into that sphere. I have, thankfully, the platform where I can be a little bit more cavalier.
Yeah.
And I can say what I want to say. And so whenever I speak my truth out there and it resonates with someone, that's the privilege I have. And how do we use the platform we have to take that message further?
I love that. I think that I have a couple of questions, actually, that I want to riff off what you've said there. First of all, I am so inspired by that myself, because that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this project, was to show people that there is no ceiling.
Yeah.
And I really passionately believe that in any role within the dental team, there is no ceiling. If you want more out of your career, there are ways to get it.
100%.
And I
at
feel
every single stage, at every level, at every like background that you come from. And I think that's really important, because people carry that with them and think, oh, well, if I've got to this certain point, that was success. And I would also challenge them on like, what is success? Yes, to get from A to B is success, but you're self-limiting sometimes by doing that. Like, let's think of it like A to B was the first step. Yeah. Then what could come next if you keep going?
And you have to have that real belief. And I don't want to make it into like a gendered issue, because it's not, it's a confidence issue. But I have had so many ideas over the past 12 years of working in dentistry. I wasn't a dental nurse beforehand, so I didn't have that exposure to dentistry. My story is I initially went to apply to be a dental nurse, and then I saw that a dental hygienist at the time, because I applied at Queen's, didn't get in, applied again, went to do dental therapy in Newcastle. But I didn't have that back and forward of how a dental practice actually works until I came into dentistry. And I literally have thought about like 4 different businesses, say, which I never really progressed through confidence. Whereas with this, I thought, I'm not going to let myself be a limiting factor, and I'm just going to do it. And even if I don't know how I'm going to do it, I'm going to learn on the job, and I'm just going to get it done. So I think having somebody young, newly qualified to hear your message, you would come away from that feeling like there's nothing you can't do, which I think
And
is
that's
so
like the
exciting.
greatest gift that I would be able to give of my time
It is
to do that.
It is.
And yes, we like, let's be real. And I'm always about like pulling it back to like, hey, this is my profession. I need to be able to make money at this. This needs to be successful. We've got an office to run here that needs to be profitable and do well. And that's really important. But then it's like, okay, so how can we do it that actually we can uplift other people at the same time? And I think that's really, really important.
And everybody's motivations are different, but I think if you are ambitious, and it's okay to say you are ambitious, I think it's nearly scary to say that you want something, or it's scary, or it's like not cool to try. And then you kind of get a bit older and it is cool to try. But it's something that I think is really positive, to be ambitious and to achieve your full potential, because nobody knows your full potential better than you yourself. I just wanted to touch there also, Alan, on, you mentioned there you were doing some pieces of writing and some journalism, which I think is really interesting. I have a now very poorly populated dental hygiene website, which I very much enjoyed at a time, writing articles, and I can no longer devote as much time to it as I once did, sadly. But I always loved writing, and I know a lot of our listeners are also very keen in the writing space within dentistry in multiple roles. How did you approach companies to say, hey, I'm interested in doing a little bit of writing? Or if you wanted to say, have an article featured in a magazine, a newspaper, how did you make that transition from dentistry, who very generously give a lot of us within our profession a platform to write? How did you then make that transition into the wider press?
It's complicated. Visibility is an important thing.
Sure.
And understanding what you want to devote your time, because I did a lot of work for free for a really long period of time. And I think people...
And you have to.
Yeah, I think this is something like a lot of people can see the reward at the end, and then they don't see the hard work that comes from it. So, I've written for free for a long time, and that means every single month working to deadline, producing content, and doing things pro bono at every single turn, working with companies for no reward, and all to start finding out what I really enjoy, or being helpful to them with the platform and the connections that I have. And I would always say to people, is like, it's really important to give first before you expect to receive.
Absolutely. And I think especially whenever you're starting out, you expect there to be reward financially, but the reward is not financial. The reward is experience.
Different generations have different, I'm going to be controversial with what I'm going to say now. Different generations have different expectations. And I'm a millennial, right? And we were the group of people that I took those internships in America. I paid for my flights to go. I spent days working in offices there for no reward. The reward for me was the privilege that they were actually letting me be there.
For sure.
And then that was changing my perspective and ultimately shaping who I am as a person and my attitude towards work. I think like if someone was happy to have me shadow them, I was happy to turn up and do it. And I didn't get paid for any of that.
Yeah.
Whenever I started to write, whenever you're networking with people, it's ultimately how can I help them and how can they benefit? Whether you're just doing clinical work, whether you're writing in the press, whether you're wanting to go into more widestream media or working with a company, all of these things need different skill sets and a time. And it's not like an earned right. It's like hey, how have I developed my own skill set to be someone that there would be demand for in that area?
Yes.
And to fully understand it. And so I was doing a lot of writing for free. And then the opportunities came through networking, through people I knew, through agencies that we'd worked with to write for the press. And then one thing leads to another. A lot of that's to do with responsiveness. So whenever I was writing more extensively for the consumer media, it would be like hey, can we have a reaction or can we have an article within 45 minutes? And so I would have to see my patients, rush to write something really quickly, and then see another patient and get it. And it may be picked up and it may not. But that's like hey, can we have something overnight for this press? And then I'd be sitting at 11 or 12 midnight writing something on the promise that it may not get ran, but suddenly in 2 days it's in the Independent on print, and I can go to the newsagents down the street and see my work.
Yeah.
But then that's also like people don't see you writing at 1 a.m.
For sure.
And so I think like people, I would like not to be negative on it, but just to give people a little bit of perspective on there's like effort that goes in.
Yes. I think that's so true actually, Alan, for every single touch point that you see somebody that you deem is successful, because we talked about how successful is a fluid concept, but how you might look to someone that you find particularly inspiring, all you see is the final flourish.
100%. I always say to people, like, I get to travel a lot, which is such a privilege, and it's something that I do not take for granted in any sphere. But people don't see you working at 3 a.m. on a flight, and you're sitting, and how many movies did you watch? Like, I watched no movies because I sat on my laptop for 7 hours working.
Yes.
Like, they don't see that, and they only see the kind of reward at the end. Oh, it's well for someone else to get to travel. And I'm like, yeah, but also you don't know what goes behind it. And I would just preface that for everyone to be like, I also don't know how hard someone else works in their job. And we all have so many things that like make that portfolio of what our day looks like, whether it's family pressures, stress, children, elderly parents, like so many things play into it. And I think just as we see those support networks that we hold dear to make it all happen, like everyone has people that champion them. And I just think it's really important to kind of hold it all together.
I agree. That's brilliant. I love that. This episode is sponsored by Lighthouse Dental Company, your partner in creating beautiful, functional dental practices. From equipment supply and servicing to full refurbishments, including flooring, cabinetry, electronics and plumbing, they manage the entire project so that dentists can focus on what matters first, their patients. You can explore how they bring practices to life at lighthousedentalcompany.com. Alan, you've spent time travelling in LA, Miami, you're just back from Sri Lanka, is that right? And it's clear that travel is a big part of your life, and you mentioned you would have liked to have been a travel agent at one time.
Yeah.
How has exploring different cultures and cities shaped your vision for Paste and the way that you approach dentistry and education?
Do you like to travel?
I love to travel. I haven't spent enough time travelling.
Where's the bucket list? Where would you like to go?
List.
Or are there any dental things? Are there any like dental courses or dental like things that you would...
Europerio. I'm going to Europerio next year. Europerio has been on my bucket list for ages. It was in Vienna this year. It was such a fab event. I was very jealous of everyone that was there, and it's a great way to see the world. I think that it's great to be in a room with all of those people where you have that palpable love and energy over something that you're passionate about.
Whenever you travel, your mind opens with possibilities.
Yes.
And I honestly feel, that's why I talk about working on a plane, I honestly feel I get my best work done on a plane or a train.
Yes.
Not a bus would start to feel travel sick. But on a train or a plane, I get such creative energy. And I just will be able to just power through something, and suddenly I've done something that will ultimately change my business for like the next 6 months. But it's that you network with people, you get to open your mind to how creativity, how something so small, maybe it's an ad that you see in a billboard somewhere, maybe it's like an interaction with a person. There's so much of the world. Honestly, we only see a fraction and a fragment of it. And just the more that you can experience lots of different people and interactions, the benefit. And that's why we did Pace Presents, and it ended up being something that impacted myself and so many in so many different ways. But it's just ultimately like getting you out of your head and out of your normal sphere to be creative and to think bigger. Yeah,
I love interior design. That would be like a real alternate life for me. If I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be doing something in interior design, or I'd like to be an artist or do something creative. But I find travel is so amazingly inspiring. Obviously, you're seeing different hotels, you're in different restaurants, different shops, different things like that, and you bring that then into your home. So I think it's only natural. If you travel, you're going to bring that dental aspect of it into your practice and into your life. And I think that's wonderful. And I think it is probably something people should do more, at least once. Go to something further afield, go to the course in,
I would be like
Dubai,
a very firm believer,
like
in like people looking outside the UK for their education in dentistry as well. And like America is really important to me. As I've said, but like just to see how things are done in different places is so important.
I now even find whenever I'm walking around, we went to Bordeaux, not last year, the year before, and I now am looking for the dental practices. I'm like, oh, that's a dentist, that's a dentist. What does that look like in there? They're nearly like little landmarks to me. That's probably like pure nerd alert. I don't know if anybody else does
We
that.
took our brand reference points from several offices outside the UK whenever we were designing paste. Yeah, and that was really important to me, because how do you shift a market or do something really different if you don't look for inspiration? Like any artist will have a whole portfolio of work and other artists that really inspire them. That can work. Every business leader will be looking at other business leaders who've done it better. They're listening to their podcasts, their speeches, they're listening to what Bob Iger's done at Disney, they're listening to, and I think that's really just inspiring for all of us.
Obviously, we know America, the cosmetic side. America's probably really pioneered that cosmetic boom in dentistry. And
but also, interestingly, looking at a much more European, minimally invasive way of doing things. And there's been that like kind of merging of no prep veneers and minimal prep, and then thinking of how smile design works in those respects. So actually, we are so connected. If I'm looking at, I'm sure you're the same, like Instagram accounts of other dentists or people that you're following, it's from all around the world. It's not necessarily just here. I've got great friends that work in Australia.
Australia's brilliant.
We've got, I'm so excited because we have a great team at Pace, but we have a great clinician coming who's been in Australia who does exceptional work joining us. And that's like so exciting for me, because just bringing learning from lots of different places is really inspiring to everyone. So like the more of that we can encourage, the better.
I think we need to think, whenever we think about humanity, this is going to be a real tangent. But when we think about humanity, we're storytellers, aren't we? And
that's very important.
Irish people are storytellers. Whenever I was at the IDA conference a couple of weeks ago, I was speaking to a dentist who had spent some time in Australia, and I just was fascinated by everything that he had to say about how the approaches, what they're doing, and I love to hear those things. And I think it's very easy to get stuck in a little practice, in a little village, doing the same thing the same way, day in, day out.
It's so interesting you use that word, because I'm teaching in America in a few weeks, and it's called Storyteller.
Okay.
Because I'm teaching on branding and marketing to dentists. But there is that piece, and that's what I said about the American journey goes both ways. We are storytellers as a nation, and there's a real sense that we do bring a certain knowledge there in helping people communicate their own stories. And it's very valuable to get people to ultimately understand that as you're marketing branding, you're ultimately just putting your story on a platform and getting people to understand you. So I'm getting other people to talk about me in that as this Irish kind of tradition of storytelling as part of it. So it's important to look at that, because I think ultimately that is like the most valuable currency.
It is.
And it's the thing that impacts you on a trip, is the people you meet rather than necessarily the things that you saw.
I'm smiling so much, Alan, because that's actually in my book builder presentation as well. So I love that we're aligned with that. I think that's great. I love it. So cosmetic dentistry, Alan, is clearly a passion of yours. Have there been any key courses or experiences that really helped you level up your craft? And what would you say to someone wanting to move beyond the basics and into a cosmetic space?
So being at Spear in Arizona was definitely like more formative for me. Then the outworkings of that, joining the AACD, and then having great friends. One of my good friends, Dr. Andrea Clegg in Nashville, who is one of my best friends, but I met her through AACD and then ended up going to Shadow, going over to Shadow at her office to learn how to do no prep and minimal prep veneers. And to do that was hands-on learning from her, learning her techniques. And having a mentor is really important. And we can go on lots of courses, but there's no follow through. You can go learn it and then you don't feel that you've got the skills to implement it. So I would say, like, look for courses that offer some sort of mentorship, something slightly more long lasting, that you can bring it back, put it in place, and then whenever you have the problems or it's not working or you're getting debonds, you need to work out, why is it debonding? Are you not curing it for long enough? Are you using the wrong bond? Are you using the wrong cement? There's like, does your curing light need replaced? Does your curing light hit the mark in terms of like its part? Yeah, all of that. And there can be, in dentistry, failure for us a lot of the time is significant, because you've got a patient at the end of it. You don't want something to go wrong. You don't want them to have sensitivity. And suddenly, if there's one little step in it that you're still trying to do properly, it can kind of like ruin it, and then you lose like hope in that technique, and then immediately, so there's that. So like having a mentor is really, really important. Looking at then just moving into cosmetic dentistry for someone, it's so multifactorial. We have a course coming out on our app called the Ultimate Associate, which is going to be really beneficial to younger dentists who want to move into that space. You need to be strategic as to how you level up in your skill set. There's so many courses out there, but I would definitely say be really prudent as to what courses you spend money on at the right time, that you can go back in on a Monday and implement it. You need to look at your skills with presenting cases, taking photographs, and then how you use the photographs to present to a patient. It's great having a camera set up, but if it's sitting there on the shelf and not being used, what's the point? How do you use that to communicate? How do you use that to discuss treatment options, to build your own portfolio? How do you upskill your chairside assistant, your dental nurse, your TCO, your front of house, to be all on the same page in terms of like using them to their fullest? We in Paste have our dental nurses doing a lot of our scanning and taking our photographs, and they're really great at it. But we want them to work that we develop a really slick flow that ultimately the patient benefits in that, but we work as a team together. So to move into cosmetics, you need to understand how that works. You need to understand what your own personal brand is and what you're putting out there and what patients are learning about you and why they're going to choose you over someone else. So you need to think about starting to craft that brand before you're even moving into that space. And I think it's a very different approach, but ultimately it is what works. And you need to look at your skill set. You need to look at your ability to communicate, your ability to discuss and deliver treatment, and your ability to just be like a great team player. Because if we're hiring on behavior and attitudes and not necessarily your skills. And I think sometimes dentists can hide behind I need another course. Oh, if only I did that course, then I would be great. Oh, I'll sell, but I can't do it yet because I don't have that course. Nonsense. There's so many things you can do every single day to elevate your relationships with patients and the dentistry that you deliver. And a lot of it's those fearful, scary bits that you don't lean into. Yeah. And it's just having those conversations, spending the time, taking more photographs, and also understanding how to use technology to your benefit. So yeah, a lot of things. That's a bit of a general answer, but there's a lot like they need to think about for sure.
And did you do any courses in the UK? You've mentioned some courses.
Yeah, I did Monique Vassant's course on composite bonding and his Maestro course many years ago. I did really cool with Phil Ower and Ian Bunn.
Yes.
I did a whole perio course, and that was really important for me, and that changed the way that I managed perio.
Phil Ower changed my life.
Changed my life in perio. 100%. Just the way to view it. And I actually got results. I remember taking a patient from having grade 3 mobility to having healthy gingiva to having ortho to pull their teeth back in. And that was because of what that patient self-managed at home. Because of what he taught me. And I remember pulling them out of whatever sort of more complex treatments they were in. Let's put them into this. Let's get deep pocket debridement. Let's look at everything. And we got results. And it was a game changer for me.
So exciting. Ian Dunn is coming to Marble Clinic, actually, where we are here today, Marble Clinic Belfast, on the 21st of November this year. It is a sold out course, but if anybody does want to do another course with Ian, you can register your interest on his website, perio.courses, and I'll leave that in the show notes for anyone who is a perio obsessive like me and Alan.
Yeah, great. Perio course really changed the way that I approach practice, for sure. And then just communication, just understanding. I think it's really important for associates to look at their brand, to understand to kind of like do a little bit of life coaching in terms of like, where do they want to go? Where do they want to get to? And what maybe, and I'm as we said before, like 5-year, 10-year plans, like throw it out the window. Sometimes you honestly don't know what life's going to put in front of you, good or bad. But just to have like a little bit of a sense of like, what things would I like to move in the direction of, and what are the necessary steps to get there, and to be really intentional with it as well. Sometimes we can get lost.
I just want to mention a really brilliant book that is so good. Just whenever you're saying that, I'm obsessed with like books. Well,
I love Start with the Why by Simon Sinek.
Fantastic one. Everybody should read that one.
Yeah.
Everybody should read that one. I read one called You Are a Badass, is by Jen Sincero.
Okay.
And she's fabulous. She has one called You're a Badass at Making Money, and then you have one called You're a Badass. Changed my perspective on believing in yourself, going for things. So yes, excellent.
I think the thing is, I've been really privileged to get to know a lot of very well-known dentists in the UK and in the US, and to be able to call them friends.
Yes.
a lot of these guys would say they've all started somewhere. Like they didn't end up being dropped onto Rodeo Drive or into Chelsea. Like they were someone who put the work in. They spent hours working whenever other people didn't. They invested in themselves. They took the opportunities. They were bold and brave. And if people can understand that, like, the sky's the limit and you can craft whatever. Like for you, you've got so much potential of things that you could go into, whether it's working in education, whether it's working in industry, and whether it's people that I can put you in touch with, or you can find in so many different ways that like can help, whether it's consulting, like so many things like that get you excited and passionate about your work.
Yes.
I think if you can keep the passion, then that's the most valuable thing, because then you never work a day in your life because you enjoy it.
Exactly. We're taught how to be great clinicians in dental school, but running a business is a completely different skill set, and we've talked about that a little bit already. How did you go about preparing yourself for the business side of launching a practice?
Well, I don't know if I was prepared, being honest, and I still don't know if I'm prepared. I think you just get like your tolerance for chaos increases.
Yes.
And I think the skill in business is just to be able to manage multiple things at once and not to let everything. I have a good friend of mine, Emma McCrory, who's a dentist who
Yes, I know Emma.
she's a specialist orthodontist. Emma always said to me whenever she opened her practice, she has a book, and at the end of the day, whenever it's time, the book gets closed and there'll still be things in the list in the book. And you can park that, and then tomorrow you can open it and look at the list again. And I think there has to be creating boundaries, because it could be all consuming. But you're never going to be prepared, and that's okay. I think due diligence is really important when we go in, and a real attitude I take in leadership is I don't know everything. I'm not the best clinician. I can learn so many things, and I need to learn every day. And the skill set for me is to plug those holes in my knowledge with people that are better at it than I am.
Yes, big time.
Whether that's in my dental office, or my hiring policy for doctors is, if you're a dentist coming, I want you to be better than I am. And if I can have someone like that, then it's a benefit, because it uplifts the whole
Yeah, you
practice.
can't have ego in there. Yes.
I need someone that's better than that on me. I need someone to look at the tax and the due diligence that we're doing that appropriately. I need to have someone to help me on, so many different things. And then the bits that I feel like I'm a little bit more confident in, then I'll enjoy doing those. Yeah. But it's a team, and just to know your weaknesses and then to bring in other people to help you with it is like definitely what I would advise.
Absolutely. Wonderful. You've hosted some amazing events for young dentists, which is honestly just so refreshing to see. How important is that sense of mentorship and community to you? Do you feel like you're creating the kind of support that you once looked for yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I think we do things in reaction. So what would I have liked in the industry, and was it not there, and then can we create it?
Yeah.
I was in Sri Lanka last week with one of my friends, helping them in a sort of a business project, and we looked at the market to think, well, what's in that market and what's not there, and how would we create something that we would look for? And I think we do that in our own industries. How do we help? How do we find the support that we didn't have, or how do we create a product that wasn't there in the market? And I think we're all guided by that. Mentorship is really important. With Project Paste, what we're going to be doing is giving a platform to young dentists for them to find community and support within each other. I had this really big belief in that the UK shouldn't sit behind the US in terms of our skill set. And I want young dentists in the UK to look to dentists in the US for support, and vice versa. And I want us to all be able to communicate in a safe space where people can share cases, can look to each other for guidance, and it can be treated in a way and it's not people showing off on Instagram for public, but it can be like a safe learning platform.
Transatlantically. So you'll maybe have a little buddy.
Yeah,
not to make it sound too P5, but you maybe have a little buddy.
I love that. Let's lean into that. I want to pen pals on. Yeah. Why not though? Because there's something really engaging in that. That you can learn from someone else that's in a different, that you're not sitting in competition, that you can support each other. Some of my best mentors and friends have been in the US because there isn't that direct competition. Just likewise, I've been really successful in having a platform in London, and I would say like I would be probably better known in London than here because there isn't that competition, because I'm not from London. I'm not down the street and then they're started guarding their knowledge, whereas
gatekeeping.
No gatekeeping. And I have a lot of good dental friends there that will share a lot with me, and they're very well known in the public eye because of the fact that we can have that honest relationship. And I think that's important. So how do we create that? How do we also like have a platform for dentists to find like mentors and jobs?
Yeah.
Rather than having a flat CV, if someone could see the depth of knowledge that you've put out there, the learning that you've done, how you've supported others, how you've interacted with others, and that can be all there. Like we can use social media as our portfolio rather than something that people are hiding or curating to protect themselves. How about we change the narrative in that? So I think that's really important. And I just think life is about learning. And if we can support each other's, you know, below us, coming after us, we can learn from those who've come before us. And we can all help each other. Sure, wouldn't the world be a better place?
It would. And I think
How do you find that in your role? How do you look for a mentor?
I find dental
Do they
hygiene,
exist?
dental hygiene and dental therapy to be extremely competitive whenever you want to move into other areas and spaces.
Okay.
And I think there has been...
Is there gatekeeping?
I would say yes and no, and it depends on who you're choosing to be in your community. Clareberry and Bentai are so generous. They have a podcast called The Dental Besties. I spoke to them a couple of weeks ago, and they're going to do an episode of my podcast, which is so fantastic. And they are so willing, open, generous with their time, their expertise, their experience. So many people, I could name hundreds that are amazing. Kat Edney's amazing for dental therapy. Really champions the therapy-led practice. Lauren Long does that as well. Siobhan Kelleher is fantastic in terms of really looking at your mental well-being and things outside of the dental surgery that are brilliant. I think that there has been a real shift in terms of who used to be influential as opposed to who is influential now. We're seeing are people who have a very rich, full clinical life.
Yeah.
Also then imparting their knowledge, wisdom, helping you stand on their shoulders for things that they've pulled out from their day-to-day practice that's so beneficial for us. And I think social media is a brilliant space for that.
Does Northern Ireland feel part of the UK, or does it feel separate and isolated? Because I think that's something that can happen in dentistry quite a lot.
I've never, aside from my entry-level training, I've never worked in practice. I had a brilliant shadow day with Rina Wadia on Harley Street, which was one of the most, I would say, influential days of my career. It was a real eye-opener for me, and I loved it so much and got so much out of that. I would say that I would be quite a forward-thinking hygienist, and the people I surround myself with BSDHT and our committee are also very forward-thinking hygienists, and I really am so grateful for that. There has to be a community of us together who are all willing to be supportive of each other.
Okay.
And finally, what's next for you? From the outside, your message, Alan, always feels very much like dream big and go for it. So if you could name one big dream right now, what would that be?
What would my dream be? Goodness. I think a lot of what we're doing is building an ecosystem, and how all of that interacts is really important for me. And I'm in Belfast, and Paste is growing, which is really amazing. And I have a platform to be able to speak to young dentists and associates and help them in marketing, and I'm going to be doing that a lot more here and in the US. The US will play a bit of a role for me, which is really exciting. And with Project Paste, everything that we're doing to really be that grassroots initiative for younger dentists in response to their needs really excites me, and I don't know how that's going to go. Being really honest, like I have these waves of like, is this a terrible idea or is this a genius idea? And I think we're into it's a really good idea space, but I think the fear and anxiety comes in whenever you're just not sure. Pace Presents was really successful last year, which blew my mind on that. And so we just watch this space as to what happens with that, and just helping, if we can just empower others and help others with what we're doing and the team that we have in place. I've curated a really great team of people around me that have helped me get to do what I'm doing and to enjoy it. And so if we can help others with that, like realize their visions, that's really exciting. And for me to be constantly challenged with fun projects and work is great. I suppose, sorry, I'm being a bit evasive. I think Project Paste, like launching, is going to be really significant. I think I've been working on a few projects in the background that once they drop will be really significant in our industry. I always say it's going to be a busy year, but every year's busy.
It's busier.
Yeah, and this is like, it's last 2024 was a crazy year. There were a lot of milestones hit that I had never foreseen. 2025, there's been even more travel in it, which was something that I'm just so grateful for. And just the ability to have the right people around you as you go through it, and to not always look to the end goal, but just to think, are you enjoying it throughout the journey?
Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. And if you can go for that, like, that's really important. A great friend of mine, a dentist, Brian Harris in America, he's got 2 columns in his kitchen. One says yes and no. And as long as the no's column is twice as full as the yes, like, he's doing okay. Because sometimes you can spread yourself across so many things that you don't achieve in anything too successfully. We've kind of created all the things that are happening. If we can go deep in those and really embed those in and create those relationships across it, I think that's really important. So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. And let's see.
Amazing. Alan, thank you so much for being part of this. I think you're awesome. I love the conversation so much, and I feel like I could do anything now. So I'm sure our listeners will also feel like they could do anything as well. So I really appreciate you coming on and
it's my privilege.
Meeting in real life, and I loved every second of it. IRL. So thank you so much.
No worries. Awesome. Thank you.
I don't know about you, but I genuinely feel like I could take on the world after that conversation. Massive thank you to Alan Clarke. That was so much more than just a chat about dentistry. It was a reminder that the possibilities really are endless when you just trust yourself, invest in your growth, and show up with intention. Alan's journey, his mindset, and the work he's doing with Paste Dental and Paste Presents are honestly just a breath of fresh air in our industry. If you haven't already, go follow Alan over on Instagram and at Paste Presents. Paste Presents is such a brilliant platform, not just courses and creative projects, but for building a modern, values-led dental community that feels genuinely really exciting to be part of. Alan mentioned a ton of great resources and courses and ideas throughout our conversation, and I've popped all of those links into the show notes for you, so you can have a little scroll and click if anything sparks your interest. And if this episode left you feeling inspired, tell us. Come say hi over on Instagram at Conversations with Dental Friends, or message me directly at Homegirl Hygienist. I'd love to hear what stood out for you and what you're dreaming about now, and whether you want more business, mindset, or creativity focused episodes like this one. And if you think someone you know would love this episode too, take a second and share it with them. Send them the link or post it to your story and tag us. You'd be surprised how far one little share can go. Thanks again to Alan for being so generous with his wisdom, and thank you so much for listening. I appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you back here next week for another episode of Conversations with Dental Friends.